Have you ever stumbled on something you weren't supposed to see? Not just something private, but something buried. My name's Ryan Keller, and for 10 years I worked as a systems technician at Fort Mason Airfield, just outside of Rapid City, South Dakota. It's a small Air National Guard base most folks around here forget even exists. That's the way they like it. My job wasn't glamorous, just maintenance. Computers, communications arrays, radar calibrations, that sort of thing. I wasn't cleared for classified stuff, but when you spend long enough in a place like that, you pick up the whispers, rumors about underground labs, experimental aircraft, electromagnetic shielding, all above my pay grade, or so I thought. Until the night I stayed late to fix a malfunction in Hangar 4. Now, Hangar 4 isn't where they keep planes. Nobody goes in there unless they've got top clearance. The building's tucked at the far edge of the runway, fenced off with motion sensors and enough warning signs to make you feel radioactive just standing nearby. But the systems were glitching, and the base commander himself signed off on my work order, so I figured, what the hell? Fix it, log it, go home. It was just past midnight when I badged in. Inside, it looked like any other hangar, until I noticed the floor. It wasn't concrete. It was metal, smooth, cold, seamless, like someone had poured it from a single mold. And in the center of the room was a circular hatch, maybe 20 feet across, with warning lights blinking along its rim. I remember standing there, tools in hand, thinking how wrong it all felt. That's when I heard it. The hum. Low at first, like distant thunder, then deeper, vibrating through the floor and up into my bones. I knelt down, pressed my hand to the metal, and felt it pulsing. The sound wasn't coming from the generators. It was coming from below. I told myself to ignore it, focus on the work. But when I opened the control panel, the screen was flickering, lines of code scrolling too fast to read. It wasn't anything I recognized. Symbols, letters, and patterns that didn't belong to any system we used. My training told me to reboot the interface. My gut told me to leave. I should have listened to my gut. The moment I hit restart, the hangar lights went out. Everything, black as pitch. Then a beam of white light shot up from the hatch, cutting through the darkness. It was blinding, pure and somehow silent. I took a step back, shielding my eyes, and the hum stopped. For one long, empty second, the air felt thick, charged, electric, like the space itself was holding its breath. Then, something moved. A shape rose slowly from the light, tall, slender, metallic, like a figure wearing liquid steel. No face, no features, just smooth silver where a head should be, reflecting my flashlight beam back at me. It didn't walk. It floated, motionless for a moment, before tilting its head like it was studying me. I froze. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My mind went blank except for one thought. This isn't human. And then it spoke. Not out loud, but inside my head. Project Arcturus, unauthorized presence detected. The voice wasn't a voice, it was a vibration, like the hum had turned into language. My heart hammered. I stumbled back, muttering, "I'm just a tech. I was told to fix the panel." Containment breach acknowledged. Before I could react, the light flared again. The air rippled. Suddenly, I wasn't in the hangar anymore. I was somewhere else. Darkness all around me, but not empty. There were walls, smooth and metallic, curved like the inside of a sphere. The floor glowed faintly beneath my boots. The hum was back, steady and deep, and it was everywhere. I tried to move, but my limbs felt heavy, like I was underwater. Then I saw them. 3 more of those things, standing in a semicircle ahead of me. Each one identical, each one watching. They didn't speak, they didn't move, but I felt them inside my head again. A flood of thoughts that weren't mine. Images of stars, diagrams of strange geometries, and one word repeating over and over. Arcturus. When I asked what it meant, the answer came in fragments. A beacon. A bridge. A beginning that cannot end. I felt something cold press against my temple. There was a flash of blue light, and I saw everything. Earth from orbit, the base beneath the ground, a massive object buried miles below Fort Mason, round, black, humming with energy. When I woke up, I was lying on the hangar floor. It was 4:13 a.m. The hatch was sealed, the lights were on, my tools were gone. No one believed me. Security reviewed the cameras, said there was nothing but static from midnight to 4. My badge showed no record of ever entering Hangar 4. They sent me home on medical leave, said I had a stress episode. But here's the thing. They didn't wipe my memory clean. That hum, I can still hear it. Not in the room, but in my head, faint and constant. Sometimes it pulses 3 times before fading away, like it's syncing with something I can't see. I started digging. Project Arcturus wasn't in any official database, but through some old Army archives, I found a partial file, declassified in 1998, then retracted 3 days later. It mentioned an energy anomaly detected beneath South Dakota in 1947. They built Fort Mason on top of it to contain it. The report ended with one line: object origin unknown. Response pattern suggests intelligence. I tried reaching out to others, old coworkers, base contacts, but one by one, their numbers went dead. Then last week, I found a new mark behind my right ear. 3 small circles burned into the skin, faintly glowing under UV light. Every night since, the hum gets louder. The lights in my house flicker when I close my eyes. Sometimes, just before sleep, I see that silver shape standing at the edge of my bed, motionless, waiting. I think the base wasn't hiding a secret project. I think we were the project, and whatever they buried under Fort Mason is waking up again. The hum's louder now. It's saying something new, something clear this time. Arcturus reactivated. Retrieval in progress. I can feel the floor vibrating beneath me as I write this. The lights just went out. If anyone finds this recording, tell them Project Arcturus was never shut down. It's still here, and it's coming back online.
Ever find a place that just feels wrong the second you walk into it? That's how I felt about room 12 at the Starlight Motel off Highway 281 in Enid, Oklahoma. It was late October, and I'd been on the road 3 nights straight, driving freight cross-country after a warehouse delay in Amarillo. My eyes were heavy, my back was killing me, and all I wanted was 6 hours of sleep before sunrise. The sign out front flickered like it was struggling to stay alive, starlight glowing half the time, moat the other half. The parking lot was cracked and weedy, with a few old trucks and one dusty red sedan that hadn't moved in days. Inside the front office, the clerk looked like he'd been sitting behind that counter since the Reagan administration. "Only one room left," he said, without looking up from his newspaper. 12, around back. If that didn't sound like an omen, I don't know what does. The room smelled faintly of mildew and something metallic, like rust or blood. The wallpaper was peeling, the TV didn't work, and there was a small, dark stain near the foot of the bed. I told myself it was coffee. Always coffee. I showered, turned off the lights, and tried to sleep, but the hum started around midnight. At first, I thought it was the air conditioner, a low, vibrating tone, steady and deep. But when I unplugged it, the sound didn't stop. It was everywhere, in the walls, in the floor, even under my skin. The longer I listened, the more it seemed to have a pattern, like it was communicating in pulses. I tried to drown it out with the TV, but when I turned it on, the screen glowed gray, then white. No signal, just static. And in the static, shapes began to move. Not random noise, but silhouettes, tall, thin, shifting behind the haze like they were on the other side of the glass. "Must be exhaustion," I muttered, but I couldn't look away. Then came the light. It wasn't from the window or the lamp or anything human. It was a glow that started in the corners of the room, spreading until the air itself looked liquid, like heat rippling off asphalt. My chest tightened. The hum grew louder, so loud it felt like it was inside my skull. And then everything stopped. Silence. I blinked, and the room was different. The bed was gone. The walls were metal, curved, seamless. The air was cold and thin, and I couldn't see a single source of light, even though everything glowed faintly silver. I was standing, but I couldn't feel the floor beneath me. It was like gravity worked differently there, like I was underwater but not sinking. That's when I saw them. 3 figures, maybe 7 feet tall, moving toward me. Their skin was pale gray, their limbs long and narrow, their heads slightly elongated. No mouths, just black eyes that reflected the light like oil. One of them raised an arm, and the air rippled again. I couldn't move. My muscles locked up, my vision narrowed, and the hum returned, this time synchronized with my heartbeat. They were communicating, not with sound, but directly in my head. "You perceive interference," the thought said, smooth and emotionless. "You entered the field." I wanted to scream, but my mouth wouldn't open. The hum vibrated through my bones, each pulse stronger than the last. "We observe. You carry signal residue." Something cold touched the back of my neck. My vision blurred. I saw flashes, stars, constellations, or maybe just lights. One of them was red and pulsing, the same color as the motel sign outside. And then, nothing. When I woke up, I was back in room 12. The clock said 3:17 a.m. The air conditioner was running again, even though I'd unplugged it. My truck keys were still on the nightstand, but the metal felt warm, like they'd been sitting in sunlight. I stumbled into the bathroom to splash water on my face and stopped dead when I saw myself in the mirror. There was a small circular mark on the back of my neck, 3 dots arranged in a perfect triangle. I pressed them and felt a faint vibration beneath the skin. I checked out before dawn. The clerk didn't say a word, just handed me my receipt without looking up. When I glanced back at him, I noticed something I hadn't before. A faint mark behind his left ear, glowing just slightly in the dim office light. I didn't say anything, just drove. That was 4 days ago. I haven't slept more than an hour at a time since. The hum hasn't stopped. It's in my ears now constantly, faint but rhythmic like Morse code. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see that silver room again. I feel the weightlessness. I see their eyes. Last night I tried calling the Starlight Motel. The number doesn't exist. I even checked Google Maps. No listing, no photos, no address. It's just gone, like it never was there. But I know it was. Because this morning, when I woke up in the sleeper cab of my truck outside Wichita, I found something tucked under my wiper blade. A motel key, brass, old, number stamped clear as day. 12. And when I hold it, I can hear it hum. The same low, steady vibration, the same signal. I don't know what they did to me in that room or why they marked me. Maybe I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe room 12 was never a motel room at all, just the entry point to something else. But I know it's calling me back. Every mile I drive, every flicker of neon on the highway looks like the starlight sign through the fog. I think I'll find it again soon. Or maybe, more likely, they'll find me.
You hear stories like this in small towns all the time. Missing hikers, strange lights, weird noises in the woods. But they never stick with you until it's someone you know, someone you grew up with. My name's Evan Cross, and I'm from Clearwater, British Columbia, a quiet logging town tucked between the Thompson River and miles of forest no one bothers to map anymore. Around here, people mind their business, drink their beer, and pretend the world beyond the tree line doesn't exist. That changed the night Jacob Heller disappeared. Jacob and I had been friends since grade school. He was the kind of guy who could fix anything with duct tape and a wrench, a born mechanic who never cared much for city life. After high school, he bought a small place out near Raft Mountain, off the old service road where the forest gets thick enough to swallow sound. He liked the isolation, said it made the nights peaceful. But that peace didn't last. It started in early October, right after the first frost. Jacob called me one night, said he'd been hearing machines in the woods. After dark, low hums, rhythmic vibrations like heavy engines idling underground. I laughed, told him to lay off the beer, and hung up. That was the last normal conversation we ever had. 2 nights later, I got a call from his sister, Nina. She was frantic. Jacob hadn't shown up for work at the auto shop, and no one had seen him all day. She'd gone to his cabin and found the lights on, the TV playing static, and the front door wide open. His truck was still in the driveway. By the time I got there, it was close to midnight. The road to his cabin was quiet. Too quiet. Usually you could hear the creek running down from the ridge, but that night there was nothing. No water, no wind, no animals. Just silence so thick it made my ears ring. Jacob's place sat at the edge of a wide clearing, the moonlight spilling across the frost-covered grass. His tools were scattered on the porch, and the air smelled faintly metallic, like heated wiring. Inside, the TV screen flickered gray, humming with static. There was no sign of a struggle, no broken glass, no blood, just a strange burn mark on the living room floor. It was circular, about 3 feet across, the wood blackened, smooth, as if it had been melted from above. I crouched down to touch it. The surface was cold, but the air above it buzzed. Not loud, just this faint vibration that made the hairs on my arms stand up. I pulled my hand back fast. That's when I heard that hum Jacob had talked about. It came from outside, deep and pulsing, like a heartbeat echoing through the ground. The walls of the cabin trembled. I grabbed a flashlight and ran to the porch. The clearing was glowing. A white light hovered just above the trees, silent and steady. It wasn't a helicopter. No blades, no wash, no sound. The light shifted, rippling like heat off asphalt, and then descended, slow, deliberate, until it hovered right above the clearing. The hum grew louder, pressing against my chest like a physical force. I shouted Jacob's name, but the sound vanished in the air, swallowed by the vibration. Then the light changed. It narrowed into a column that touched the ground right where that burn mark was. Inside the beam, dust and frost lifted into the air, swirling in a slow spiral. I took one step forward, and everything went black. When I came to, it was dawn. The cabin was quiet again. The burn mark was gone. Just clean, untouched wood beneath my boots. My watch said it was 7:40 a.m. I'd lost almost 7 hours. I staggered outside, half expecting to see the clearing destroyed, but it looked normal. The frost had melted, though, in a perfect circle around where the light had been. I called for Jacob again, but my voice felt small, useless. By noon, the RCMP showed up. They searched the cabin, the woods, the road, the nearby river. Nothing. No tracks, no signs of struggle, no Jacob. The official story said he wandered off, probably fell into the forest or a ravine. But that didn't explain the burn mark. It didn't explain the light, and it sure didn't explain the missing time. For weeks, the town buzzed with theories. Some said he ran away. Others whispered about alien abductions, about cattle mutilations that had happened a few towns over. I kept my mouth shut. Nobody believes you when you talk about lights in the sky. Then about a month later, I got a letter. No return address, no stamp, just slid under my door one night. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 3 words written in Jacob's handwriting. They were right. That was it. Since then, strange things keep happening out near Raft Mountain. Hikers report losing time, hearing humming underground. One guy said he saw a metal shape buried halfway on the slope, something smooth and circular, like a giant disc. The forestry department brushed it off, said it was a natural sinkhole. But I've been back there since. A few nights ago, I drove out to the clearing with a flashlight and Jacob's old wrench in my pocket.
The hum started as soon as I stepped out of the truck. Soft, steady, familiar. I followed it to the center of the field, where frost was forming even though the air was warm. And there it was again. The light, hovering low, pulsing, silent. I should have run, but I didn't. I just stood there, staring up into it. For a moment, I thought I saw shapes inside, figures, moving, watching. Then just like before, the light narrowed, reached down, and the world went white. When I woke up this morning, I was back in my bed in Clearwater. My truck was parked out front, covered in frost. I don't remember driving home. There's a small mark on my wrist now, 3 dots, perfectly aligned. When I press them, I feel that faint vibration again, the same one I felt in Jacob's cabin. I think I know what happened to him now. I just don't think he's gone. I think he's still out there, just not in this world anymore. And if I'm right, I don't think I'll be here much longer either.
People say the northern lights are beautiful, ethereal ribbons of color dancing across the sky. But here in Churchill, Manitoba, it's an old saying passed around by fishermen and trappers, and everyone agrees on one thing. When the sky blinks twice, someone goes missing. I never believed it until the night my brother, Noah, vanished. My name's Hannah Clark, and I've lived in Churchill my whole life. It's a cold, lonely town perched on the edge of Hudson Bay, where the nights stretch long and quiet and the air smells like salt and diesel. I work as a wildlife guide, mostly taking tourists out to spot polar bears or belugas, though business slows to a crawl once the ice moves in. That's when the sky comes alive. Green curtains rippling overhead, flickering like some silent warning. It was early February, bone cold and still. Noah and I were driving down Kelsey Boulevard, headed back from the docks. He was talking about fixing up Dad's old snowcat, but I wasn't really listening. I was watching the horizon. There was this glow, faint but strange, too white to be the aurora. I thought it was headlights at first until it moved up. Then the power went out. Every light in town gone. Street lamps, porch lights, even the signal tower by the bay. The truck's engine sputtered and died, leaving us stranded in the kind of silence you can hear your pulse in. Noah frowned, tapping the dashboard. That's new. Must be a grid failure, I said, though it didn't feel like one. The air was charged, dry, humming with static. My hair stood on end. Then the sky blinked. A blinding flash, pure white like lightning without the sound. It lasted maybe a second before everything went dark again. Noah cursed, shielding his eyes. Jesus, Han, did you see? The sky blinked again. This time, it didn't fade right away. The whole sky glowed, rippling like something alive was moving behind it. For a second, I saw shapes, round, faint, arranged in a perfect triangle. My chest tightened, and that low hum in the air grew louder, pressing against my ribs. Noah opened his door. "What the hell is that?" "Don't," I started, but he was already stepping out. The moment his boots hit the snow, the hum stopped. So did he. He turned to look back at me, mouth open like he was about to say something, but no sound came out.
The light above him condensed into a narrow beam, thin as a thread but bright as a flare. It touched the ground at his feet, and everything froze. The snow around him lifted, swirling like dust in slow motion. Then Noah was gone. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I just sat there, gripping the wheel, staring at the empty patch of snow where my brother had been seconds ago. The light blinked out, the hum faded, and the world went still again. When the power came back an hour later, I drove straight to the RCMP detachment. They took my statement, nodded politely, and told me I must have been disoriented by the power surge. One officer suggested Noah might have wandered off in the dark, maybe toward the bay. But they didn't find footprints, only one set leading from the truck to the spot where he disappeared. Nothing else. For days, I searched the shoreline myself. The ice stretched for miles, unbroken, untouched. But sometimes at night, I'd see flashes over the water, quick bursts of white, like the sky winking at me. People in town stopped talking to me after a while. I could feel it every time I walked into the diner. The stares, the whispers. Poor Hannah, she's seeing things, they'd murmur. Even my mother wouldn't say Noah's name anymore. Then last week, something changed. It was late, after midnight. I was sitting in the living room, wrapped in a blanket, the radio playing low. Suddenly, the static cut in, sharp and loud. I tried changing the station, but it didn't matter. Through the crackling came a voice. Soft, faint, familiar. Hannah. I froze. Hannah, it's cold here. It was Noah's voice, clear as day. I dropped the radio, but the sound kept coming, echoing from somewhere beyond it, like the room itself was speaking. They're not what you think, he said. Don't look at the sky. Then silence. The next morning, I found new tracks in the snow behind my house. Not boot prints. Too narrow, too long, almost like deer hooves, but spaced wrong. They led from the tree line straight to my back door. I didn't open it that night. Couldn't. Last night, the power went out again. The same hum, the same static in the air. I looked out the window and saw it. The white light hovering low over the bay, flickering like a pulse. The sky blinked once. Then again. I don't know what they want or why they took Noah, but I know the stories weren't just superstition. The old men at the docks were right. When the sky blinks twice, someone's chosen. The light's closer now. I can feel it through the walls, vibrating in my chest, filling the air like invisible thunder. My radio just turned on by itself, whispering my name over and over. Hannah. I think I understand now. It's not lightning. It's not aurora. It's them, whoever they are, whatever they've been waiting for in the dark above Hudson Bay. The sky's blinking again. And this time, I know it's for me.
They always said Dry Creek, Montana was quiet, too quiet. A ranching town surrounded by miles of open prairie and half-abandoned missile silos. The kind of place where the sky feels too big and the silence carries longer than the wind. I used to find comfort in that stillness. Now I can't stand it. Every hum, every flicker of light makes my stomach tighten because I know what I heard, what I saw. My name is Dr. Elise Moran, and for 5 years I worked as a field researcher for the National Atmospheric Data Center, studying weather anomalies and air pressure patterns across the northern plains. Most of it was routine, tracking humidity, monitoring ionization levels, calibrating sensors. But one night, my equipment picked up something that didn't fit the laws of weather, or of anything I'd ever studied. It started late September, when the temperature dropped fast and the first frost hit the grass. I was alone at my field site near Bear Ridge, about 12 miles east of Dry Creek, running calibration tests. My spectrometer readings were fluctuating like crazy, magnetic interference off the charts, energy spikes that climbed and fell in perfect rhythm. I logged it all, thinking it was a glitch, until the signal started to repeat at 7.42 hertz, a frequency known to cause disorientation in humans. I checked the power source, the ground wires, the antenna alignment. Everything was fine. That's when I saw it. A faint blue shimmer hanging over the ridgeline, too symmetrical to be natural. It pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. I logged the event as Anomaly 01, Blue Veil. The name came to me instantly, though I couldn't say why. Maybe because it looked like a curtain of light pulled over the world. Maybe because I already knew I was looking at something not meant to be seen. I should have gone home. Should have told myself it was lightning or atmospheric refraction, but curiosity and fear share the same pulse, and I followed it. The next night I went back. I brought an EM field meter, a high-frequency recorder, and a night vision camera. The signal was stronger. So strong it distorted the display on my phone and caused my vehicle's engine light to flash. I parked by the old Cold War radar tower at the top of Bear Ridge, a relic from the 1960s, now fenced off and half buried in dirt. Locals always joked that it still picked up ghost signals. Standing there in the dark, I realized that wasn't a joke. The air itself buzzed. The EM meter maxed out and then went dead. My flashlight flickered twice, then went black. And in that electric silence, I heard a low hum, not from the ground or wind, but from above. When I looked up, my breath froze. Hovering over the tower was a sphere of blue light, the same color as the shimmer I'd seen, perfectly still against the stars. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't anything human. The light pulsed 3 times, and I swear I felt it respond to my heartbeat. Then everything went white. When I came to, I was sitting in my truck, the engine running, the heater blowing. My phone clock said 4:13 a.m., but my watch read 11:02 p.m. I'd lost 5 hours. I tried to convince myself it was exhaustion, maybe a blackout, but when I checked the recordings, they were wiped. Every file gone, except one. A 6-second clip of static with a faint whisper. It's open now. The next day, I reported the readings to my supervisor in Billings. He listened, said he'd pass it up the chain. A few hours later, 2 men arrived at my office. They weren't from NOAA. Dark suits, short hair, no ID. One spoke softly, almost politely, while the other stood behind him, silent as stone. They asked about the anomaly, called it Operation Blue Veil. I froze, because that was the name I'd given it, the name written only in my private field notes. They confiscated my hard drives, my logbooks, even my weather equipment. When I asked who they worked for, the polite one smiled and said, "Dr. Moran, we handle environmental irregularities." Then they told me to stop my research immediately, to stay away from Bear Ridge. I tried. God knows I tried. But the hum didn't stop. It followed me home, faint at first, then louder, pulsing through the walls like a heartbeat in the air. My electronics started shorting out, lights flickered. Sometimes in the dead of night, I'd see a faint blue glow seeping through my window blinds, moving across the ceiling like water.
Then came the headaches, the memory lapses. A nurse in town, Mara Jensen, called me a week later. She said several locals were reporting the same thing: nosebleeds, insomnia, flashes of blue light in their bedrooms. Everyone lived within 20 miles of Bear Ridge. 2 nights after that call, Mara vanished. Her car was found abandoned at the turnoff near the tower. The engine was running, the headlights were on, and her phone was tuned to static, pulsing faintly at 7.42 hertz. The authorities sealed off the entire ridge the next day, calling it a radiation containment zone. They didn't let anyone near it. Trucks rolled in at night with no logos, and by morning the tower was gone, bulldozed flat. But the hum is still here. Sometimes when the wind dies, you can hear it, low and steady, vibrating through the prairie. And if you're unlucky enough to be outside when it starts, you'll see it too. The faint shimmer of blue light rising over the fields, flickering like a dying star. I still have one piece of evidence, a recording from the night I blacked out. It's mostly static, but near the end, a voice cuts through. It's my own. It's not the sky. It's below it. I whisper. I've moved 3 times since then. Helena, Missoula, Bozeman. But the hum always finds me. It seeps through walls, through static, through silence. The last time I heard it, I looked outside and saw the blue shimmer again, closer than ever, crawling across the horizon like dawn. I think they're looking for me. And I think when Operation Blue Veil began, it wasn't about studying anything. It was about keeping something in. Now, whatever it was, is out.
They say people don't really disappear in Ridgefield, Wyoming. They just stop showing up. Maybe that's a poetic way of saying no one asks too many questions out here. It's a ranching town, a few thousand acres of open range and wind that never stops howling. I've lived here my whole life, and I used to love that emptiness, the sense that you could scream into the hills and the sound would never come back. For the record, I wasn't supposed to be in Ridgefield anymore. I left once, college in Denver, job in Boise, but somehow, like everyone else, I came back. My mom got sick, the ranch needed help, and before I knew it, I was right back where I started. Only this time, something was different. It started after the August storm, the kind of dry thunderstorm that flashes but never rains. The sky lit up for nearly 10 minutes straight, and people said the lightning looked strange. Blue-white, not yellow. It didn't strike the ground either. It just hung there, hovering over Willow Creek, the stretch of land where the old quarry used to be. The next morning, I found our cattle huddled by the fence, silent and trembling. Not one of them would go near the north pasture, not even when I drove them myself. That's when I noticed the grass. It was charred, not black, not burnt, but bleached, like the color had been drained out of it. I called Eli Burns, the county surveyor and one of the few friends I still had around here. He came by with his truck and a set of sensors he used for ground mapping. We figured maybe it was some kind of electrical discharge or a gas pocket, something explainable. But when he powered on his equipment, the readings went haywire. Electromagnetic interference, he muttered, frowning at the display. But there's nothing here that should be emitting. We both stood in silence. The air had this weird metallic taste to it, like breathing in old batteries. The wind died completely. I could hear my own pulse pounding in my ears. And then it happened. A hum. Low. Steady. Not mechanical. It felt alive. It wasn't loud exactly, but it vibrated through my chest, the way sound does underwater. Eli froze. His equipment started beeping like crazy, and the compass on his dashboard spun in circles. "Clara, we should go." We did. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that hum again, deep and pulsing, like it was coming from the earth itself. Around 3 a.m., I saw a faint light through my window, just a glow at first, over the hills. It was the same blue-white color as the lightning from the storm. I thought about calling Eli, but something stopped me. Instead, I grabbed my jacket and my phone and drove out toward Willow Creek. When I got there, the glow was stronger, pulsing behind the ridge like a heartbeat. My headlights flickered and died, but I didn't care. I climbed the slope, my boots crunching over dry weeds. When I reached the top, I saw it. The ground was moving, not shaking, shifting, like something was pushing up from underneath. The light seeped through the cracks, and with it came that hum, louder now, rattling my bones. And then, for a split second, I saw shapes in the light, tall, thin silhouettes, perfectly still. I ran. When I got home, it was 6:17 a.m. The sun was already rising, but my phone said I'd only been gone 20 minutes. My truck was covered in frost. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I tried to tell Eli the next day, but he wasn't answering his phone. His truck was gone too. I drove out to his place and found the front door wide open. His coffee was still warm on the table. His gear, his sensors, laptop, camera, was missing. By noon, the sheriff's office had taped off his property. Probably wandered off, they said. People do that. Except they don't. Not in Ridgefield. After Eli vanished, the lights came back. Always the same hue, always in the same place. I stopped going out after dark, stopped trying to explain it, but I started noticing something else. People were acting strange. Old Mr. Lawson, who ran the hardware store, closed up shop and left town in the middle of the night. The Whitaker family packed up their farm without saying goodbye. And those who stayed, they changed. They stopped talking about the storm. They stopped looking at the sky. The hum never stopped. Some nights it's faint, like a faraway engine. Other nights, it's so strong it rattles the windows and wakes the horses. I've seen the glow behind the hills again, brighter than ever. And sometimes when it flashes, I swear I see figures standing in the fields, motionless, watching. A few days ago, I went into town. The post office was locked, the gas station empty, the streets were quiet. Too quiet. I drove past Eli's old house again, and something caught my eye. A mark on the ground near the porch, circular and smooth. The dirt fused into glass. Last night, I heard voices in the static of my radio. Not words exactly, just whispers, layered on top of the hum. I unplugged it, but the sound didn't stop.
I don't know how many of us are left. Maybe a dozen? Maybe less. I keep thinking about that storm, the blue lightning, the hum, the way it all started, and I can't shake the feeling that it wasn't a visit. It was a return. They were never gone. They've been here all along, buried beneath the fields, waiting. And maybe that's why so many people in Ridgefield stopped showing up.
I've been told trauma plays tricks on memory, that your mind fills in the blanks with what it wants to remember. Maybe that's true. But what if the blanks aren't empty? What if something or someone put them there? Before last summer, I'd never thought much about aliens, UFOs, or any of that conspiracy stuff. I'm a veterinary nurse in Hollow Bend, Oregon, a tiny town tucked between the Cascades and a river no one bothers to name. The kind of place where people still wave when they pass, and where strange things are always just weather. It started on June 14th, a date I'll never forget, even though, technically, I can't remember it. I left the clinic around 8:30 p.m., tired but in a good mood. My boss, Dr. Hanley, had just signed off on my vacation days. I remember calling my sister, Leah, on the drive home, telling her I'd finally booked my trip to the coast. She laughed, said I deserved a break. We hung up. That's the last normal moment I can recall. I live about 7 miles outside of town, down Old Timber Road, a 2-lane stretch that cuts through the woods. It's beautiful during the day, but pitch black at night. No streetlights, no houses, just trees and the occasional set of deer eyes flashing in your headlights. I was about halfway home when my car radio started to fuzz. Static at first, then a high-pitched whine that made my ears ache. I hit the power button, but it didn't turn off. The lights on the dash flickered, the engine coughed, and suddenly everything died. The radio, the headlights, even the power steering. The car just coasted to a stop. Then came the light. At first, I thought it was another car, but it was too bright, white with a bluish tint flooding the entire road ahead. I remember stepping out, shielding my eyes, trying to figure out what I was looking at. There was no sound, not even crickets. The light pulsed once, twice, and then nothing. When I came to, I was sitting in my car again. The engine was running, headlights on, radio silent. I checked my phone. It was 4:17 a.m. 6 hours. Gone. My first thought was that I'd passed out, maybe from exhaustion or stress. But I didn't feel tired. If anything, I felt wired, like I'd had 3 cups of coffee. My hands were shaking. My shirt was damp, though it wasn't hot out. I drove straight home, trying not to look at the sky. The next morning, I noticed the bruises, small, round marks on my forearms and the backs of my knees, perfectly spaced, like someone had used a machine. My head throbbed with this dull, electric hum, and when I looked in the mirror, my pupils were huge. Leah came over when I told her. She tried to stay calm, but I could tell she was scared. She said, "Maybe you had a seizure. You should see a doctor." I did.
Dr. Hanley ran tests, blood work, EKG, even a CT scan. Everything came back normal. Too normal. He said the bruises looked unusual, like pressure points from suction. I laughed it off, said maybe I'd leaned on something weird, but I could see in his face he didn't buy it either. That night, I dreamed about the light. Not the car headlights, the other one. Only this time I wasn't standing on the road. I was somewhere cold and metallic, the air heavy and still. I couldn't move, couldn't even turn my head. Shapes floated around me, tall and thin, their faces wrong. No eyes, just dark hollows that seemed to hum. I remember one of them reaching toward me, its hand long and skeletal, and then I woke up screaming. After that, things got worse. Electronics in my house started acting up, clocks resetting, lights flickering, the TV turning on in the middle of the night. My cat, Millie, refused to go near me. Every time I walked into a room, she hissed and hid. Then the nosebleeds started. Always around 2 or 3 a.m., and always after that same low hum began vibrating through the walls. I tried recording it, but the audio came out blank, just static. By the end of June, I couldn't function. I called in sick, stopped answering messages. I was afraid to sleep, afraid of what I might wake up to. One afternoon, there was a knock on my door. 2 men stood there, both in dark suits, clean-cut, polite. They said they were from the Federal Aviation Administration, investigating unusual air traffic activity over Hollow Bend. They asked if I'd seen any bright lights or experienced temporal disturbances. Temporal disturbances. That's what they called it. I told them no. They thanked me and left, but when I checked outside later, their car was still parked down the road, watching my house. 3 days later, I blacked out again. This time, it happened in my kitchen. I remember dropping a glass, hearing it shatter, and then waking up on the floor hours later. My phone said 5:46 a.m. My nose was bleeding again, and there was a faint burn mark on my wrist, 3 dots in a triangle. Leah begged me to leave town, to stay with her in Portland. I agreed, packed a bag, and promised to drive out the next morning. That was a week ago. According to my sister, I never showed up. She called the sheriff's office, who found my car parked on Old Timber Road, engine off, driver's door open, purse still inside. They said the seat was warm, as if I'd just stepped out. I don't remember any of that. The last thing I recall is standing by my window at dawn, watching a faint white glow rise over the trees. And then, nothing. They say trauma fills in the blanks, but I think the blanks are there for a reason. I think something took them from me. Because sometimes, late at night, I see flashes of that blue light in my backyard, and I can hear the hum again, faint but growing. And deep down, I know what it means. They didn't come back for Hollow Bend. They came back for me.